Hello, everyone. This is Attorney Farrah from Kazi Law Offices. I'm coming to you about a rather serious topic today, and I wanted to take some time to actually talk about this in a little bit more detail because it's something that so many people have asked about, and it hasn't gotten enough attention as it probably should. I mean, in my opinion, it should be splashed across all media, but it hasn't been. And part of the reason is because so many people are saying that it's not true. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the latest report that came out. It was a whistleblower and a wonderfully brave woman, a nurse who came out and actually, as a whistleblower, revealed that forced, unconsented hysterectomies were taking place in detention centers in our great country. And if that in itself doesn't give you pause and make you wonder what is going on, then I don't know what will. Because when I heard that story, the very first thing, even though I consider myself to be very well informed and I know about many of the atrocities that are happening, and I personally have worked with residents of detention centers who have suffered some very grave human rights violations, even I, when I first heard that, was like, no, that's a little bit, that's even more extreme than I actually expected. And yet here we are. It is very difficult sometimes for our brains to process information that is so horrific and so traumatic. And I understand that as a mechanism, a lot of times we will say, oh, it's not true. Oh, it's a lie. It's, it's something else. But it's, it does a disservice to our community and to the people that we serve. And for us as a global community, it does a disservice when we discount another person's experience just because we can't understand it. And I say all of this because I keep hearing from people and over again that we don't know if it's true. And my response is, why is that your response? Why aren't you digging a little deeper to see all the reports that are coming out, to see how actually accurate this reporting is, the fact that it's widespread along many different types of news channels should indicate to you that there might be some credence to it. The fact that a woman who had absolutely nothing everything to lose by coming out, by putting her face forward, by putting her name out there, and then revealing this very grave human rights violation, that in itself should tell you that there is something here. And I will remind you that in history, in our world history, every act of genocide, every act of atrocity, every human rights abuse that we have actually suffered has first been discounted and has first been told to people that it's a lie. So it is a very convenient mechanism for us to fall down on it. Now, with all of that being said, what's actually happening? I want to tell you the story of Pauline. Pauline is a Black immigrant who was placed in a detention center, and she went in for what was told was a routine medical procedure. And after she didn't realize, or whatever might have happened, she didn't know what was her procedure was. When she woke up, she found out horrifically that she had undergone a hysterectomy. And a hysterectomy is been such an invasive procedure, and it will prevent her from ever having children. So for somebody to say that they didn't know about this, that they didn't receive any permission, they didn't give permission about this, that they went under and suddenly woke up without a body part, that is so horrific. And if that doesn't give you Handmaid's Tale vibes, then like I said, I don't know what does. So what can we do about it? Here's the thing. I have now worked for several years in detention work. So what I do is I represent people who are placed in detention centers, and I try to get them out on one of two ways. You can either get them out on bond, in which they have to pay the government a certain amount of money. That money could range from anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, maybe even more, depending on really what the judge has decided, and also depending on your location, as well as where you're originally from, what native country you're from. So I have people that first have fled their country, and they have used up whatever savings they have, and they have underground, perilous journeys. I can't even begin to explain them to you, but things where they have walked in the deserts and they've had scorpions biting at them, and they have lost children along the way in the journey. They have had to cross rivers, literally swim. They have dealt with people who are preying upon their vulnerabilities all along the way. They have been raped, they have been attacked, they have been beaten, and then they finally crawl their way into our country, across the border, ask for asylum, which, let me remind you, is a legal human right that is universally accepted. That is not illegal for you to ask for asylum. They ask for asylum, and then rather than being, welcomed, they are then thrown into detention center. And what do the detention centers look like? I just yesterday had a client, and she was only 19 years old, and she had 2 children, and she made this horrendous journey, and then was explaining to me the freezer. The freezer, if you don't know, is a place that they put you in the very beginning with your young children. They don't give you a blanket. And if you're lucky, they give you what is like a gymnasium kind of a mat, and you lie on top of that. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll get aluminum foil. Literally, it's tin foil as a blanket. And then they lie on that, and they are put in really freezing temperatures. So she was describing to me that it was so freezing that her children's fingers were constantly, losing color. And her 1-year-old baby developed bronchitis as a result. And then she had to try to get medical treatment as a result. So this is not a pleasant experience by any means. And so sometimes when the critics, they talk about immigrants and they say, oh, they're just coming here and they're coming to steal our jobs. Nobody in their right mind would go through that kind of a journey to save up all of their money, then spend all of their money on a journey, then go across the border, then be put in a freezer, then be put in, these cells, one on top of another, especially in a pandemic. Nobody would do that unless they had absolutely no other option available to them. So I ask people to give people a little grace, give them a little bit of kindness. I mean, I understand that you might not get it and you might not really know the circumstances, because we have been so lucky that we've never had to do something like that. But look at these people as people and try to understand the suffering that they must go through just to come into our great country. And it is a great country. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's a reason why people are struggling and fighting and willing to lose their lives to come into the United States of America. And I stand by that. Sometimes people think that because I see so many different atrocities that I don't realize that, but no, you will not find another person who loves this country more than I do. I love it. And that's why I know that we can do better. So when I hear reports about forced, unconsented hysterectomies being done on women, first of all, it brings up images, like I said, of Handmaid's Tale, of patriarchy and misogyny, and this ability to somebody to take control of another woman's body. But then it also shows me that we have not learned from our past mistakes. We have not learned from history. We are so unaware of the damage that we are doing to other people that we continue to do it unapologetically and blatantly without any concept of what the repercussions might be. So I urge all of you, like I said, I do this work all the time. I try to get people off on bond. If I cannot get them on bond, then I do what is a parole statement. If you go back into my Facebook page, you'll see me describe those in a little bit more detail. There are ways for you to get out of a detention center. Let me do it for you. I will not allow anybody to suffer the way that Pauline did. I mean, the reason why I went into human rights and immigration law was to prevent these type of atrocities. And I cannot just sit by and not do anything. And I know that sometimes it's comfortable. I'm just sitting here in an office doing a video about it. But the more awareness that we can bring to topics like this, the better we are serving our global community. So for those who are my Spanish-speaking clients, I urge you as well, si conoces alguna persona, alguien que ahora está en un centro de detención, por favor, diga a ellos, llámanos ahora, 630-504-0648. Yo puedo ayudarle. So give our office a call, 630-504-0648, so that I can help and try to get you out of these detention centers. You shouldn't be in them anyway. There's a COVID, there's a pandemic happening. It isn't safe for you. But then on top of that, if there are other things that you are suffering through, like my client just the other day, I don't want you to have to continue to be in a detention center when you can actually be released. I'm going to take a minute to look at these comments. Sharia Rahman, I can do a video some other time in Hindi, Urdu. Obi, thank you for shedding light on this. Such a horrific, let me just pull it up. And I can't believe that something like this is happening and people are thinking that's fake news. Yes. And like I said, I think it's an easy way. It's an easy way for us to shift responsibility from ourselves, because sometimes people think, oh, it's not my job. I don't have anything to do with this, but it is your job. And I'm going to tell you just in a second. I'm glad that you brought this up, because I want to tell you exactly how you can help. How do I want you to help? I want you to go and express outrage. Go through your social media, talk to people, let them know that this is actually happening, and then talk to your senators and your representatives and let them know that this is unacceptable behavior. And then go to Amnesty International, that has several different links on there. I'm going to put them in the comments, where you can actually draft responses and send them out as well. Do what you can on your behalf. I know that sometimes people think, oh, I'm just one person, or I'm not that important, or I'm just sitting at home, but that's how change happens. We don't want to be on the wrong side of history in this or in any other matter that's happening. And Electra, you're welcome. And I'm so glad that we are all fighting this together. I know that everyone is doing their very best during a pandemic, and sometimes some of this information is too hard to process, but burying our heads in the sand isn't going to make it go away. So let's do our part. Let's raise awareness. Let's get the word out. Thanks.